Some generations belong clearly to one world. Baby boomers grew up before computers. Gen Z grew up inside the internet. But there is one generation that belongs to both. And sometimes, neither. They are called Xennials, born roughly between 1977 and 1985, the last generation to remember life before the internet, and the first generation forced to adapt to the digital world. They grew up using cassette tapes, then smartphones, paper maps, then GPS, handwritten letters, then instant messaging, and psychologically, this created a very unusual generation, one that often feels caught between two different realities. Today we'll explore the psychology of Xennials, why they are so adaptable, why they often feel exhausted, and why many of them secretly feel stuck. The analog childhood. Xennials spent their childhood in a world that moved slowly. If you wanted information, you went to a library. If you wanted to talk to someone, you called their house phone. If you got lost, you figured it out. This matters psychologically, because childhood shapes expectations. Research in developmental psychology shows that children build mental models of how the world works. The Xennial brain learned patience, delayed gratification, face-to-face interaction, independent problem-solving. Waiting was normal. Boredom was normal. Downtime was normal. Then everything changed. The digital shockwave. While still young adults, Xennials experienced one of the largest technological shifts in human history. The internet arrived. Email arrived. Social media arrived. Smartphones arrived. Suddenly, the world moved faster. Much faster. Their childhood brain was built for slower information processing, but adulthood demanded constant adaptation. Psychologists call this cognitive load, the mental effort required to process information. And Xennials were among the first generations forced to continuously update their mental operating system. Again, and again, and again. The result? Many became extremely adaptable. But adaptation has a cost. Why they feel exhausted. Many Xennials are now managing careers, families, aging parents, financial pressures, and endless digital demands. Psychologists call this role strain, when multiple responsibilities compete for mental resources. Unlike previous generations, they must function in both worlds. Traditional expectations still exist, but modern expectations were added. Work doesn't end at 5 p.m. anymore. Messages follow you home. Notifications never stop. The nervous system rarely gets recovery time, and chronic cognitive overload creates exhaustion, not weakness. Exhaustion. The success paradox. Many Xennials were raised with a simple formula: work hard, get educated, build a stable life. But economic reality changed. Housing became more expensive. Education costs increased. Job markets transformed. The promised path became less predictable. Psychologists call this expectation reality, mismatch, when life doesn't match the model you were taught. This often creates frustration because the effort was real, but the rewards became uncertain. Many Xennials feel stuck not because they failed, but because the rules changed. The hidden identity conflict. Perhaps the deepest psychological challenge is identity. Xennials remember life before social media, but they live inside it now. They remember privacy, but live in an age of visibility. They value independence, but modern systems reward constant connectivity. This creates identity tension. Part of them wants simplicity. Another part must stay digitally connected. Part of them misses slower living. Another part depends on modern technology. They are constantly balancing two psychological worlds. Strength. Nobody talks about. But there is also a hidden strength. Research consistently shows that adaptability is one of the most valuable psychological skills, and Xennials became adaptation experts. They learned technology, but remember life without it. They understand both digital communication and face-to-face interaction. They can navigate change because they have already survived enormous change. The very thing that exhausted them also made them resilient. Maybe Xennials aren't stuck. Maybe they're carrying more transitions than any generation before them. They learned one world, then built a life in another, and sometimes that feels exhausting. But it also created something rare: perspective, because they remember what was lost and understand what was gained. And perhaps that is the real psychology of Xennials, not being trapped between two worlds, but learning how to live in both. If you're a Xennial, comment analog child, digital adult, and tell us what part of growing up during this transition felt most difficult for you.